So my number two is May December, directed by Todd Haynes, starring Natalie Portman and Charles Melton and Julianne Moore. Like logline on the movie. 20 years after their notorious tabloid romance gripped the nation, a married couple buckles under pressure when an actress arrives to do research for a film about their past. So I think people who listen to me on this podcast already know that I'm a big Todd Haynes fan, and when I read about this subject matter and this cast, I was excited but also very nervous because just this subject matter is just so gross and horrifying. And then all these reports started to come from Cannes that, oh, it's campy and it's funny and all of that. And then I watched it and I was just completely blown away by what they're able to do in this movie, which I think is probably the most delicate dance of tone I've seen in a movie across all departments. It's in the script, it's in the performances, of course, it's in Todd Haynes. And it's such a tightly packed package of that because you sort of literally walking on eggshells, with the subject matter. And if you're just a little bit over, the thing just totally falls apart. And the movie just a great job in exploring all these layers with these three main characters where you think you are with Natalie and she's entering this world where a crime has happened and you want her to learn more and do a good job, and then you start to see that she's not blame free either. She's exploiting what has happened in this place and with these two people. So there's that happening in parallel. And the movie has some really interesting takes on, celebrity and the art and craft of performance and what you do with it and how far will you go. And probably one of the reasons why this movie didn't get too many nominations in my view, because I think it sort of pokes at that. So there's that aspect of the movie, which honestly on its own would be an amazing movie. Then on top of that, you get whatever is happening between Julianne Moore and Charles Melton, which is amazing, absolutely. Where how do you even explain the psychology of this crime, right? Of this older woman who did this to a child and now has this life with this person, and what is going on over there, how she's like uber feminine and baby like and is almost like a victim in her own mind, that her prince sort of saved her and that's how she's justified this whole thing, which again, of course it's a crime, but it's just done so deftly, and Julianne Moore is so great in it that you kind of you are curious. I wouldn't go far as saying I empathize. I can't, but I'm at least curious, and I'm not sort of like, oh my gosh, I can't even watch this, I can't even look at it, like, because it's done with humanity. Like, that's the thing, like, these are all humans who did this. And then Charles, who for most of the movie is sort of a dead shell of a person, who's this young guy trapped in a body of an older man with a younger brain. Like, there's so much of confusion happening, right? Arrested development. But then in the back of the movie, it becomes his movie, because you start to see that actually the casualty of all of this from both women's points of views and what they've done, he's a victim of all of that. And and that great scene of the kids, their kids, Julianne and Charles Melton's kids going to graduation, is sort of this moment that, oh my gosh, this is what my life is going to be now. I'm here now. What am I supposed to do? And what's going to happen with me? It's just so layered and detailed, but it's not a drag. It's not preachy. It's fun. It's funny. It's just so clever, so intelligent. So just this movie just absolutely blew me away.
Yeah, I was a huge fan of this movie too. I mean, if this is a year, like we had said at the beginning, is sort of
Yeah.
a spoil of riches. Like there's so many movies in 2023. My top 10 are all like 4 to 5 star movies, and this one definitely would be in my top 10. I'm also a huge fan of Todd Haynes, and I was also blown away by this film. I think the key thing about this movie, which like you said, is in the performances, the directing, and the script, is you don't really know where your allegiance lies as an audience, and it
Mm-hmm.
shifts throughout the film, and you're really left at the end being like, well, who is exploiting who here of these three main characters? And it really is the boy who's now the husband and father. I think ends up taking over the second half of the film, like you said, and is really just tragic to see his life be stolen
Mm-hmm.
by Julianne Moore, who you know was a predator essentially
Mhm.
on this child. Even though in the beginning you think, oh, they're in love and like, okay, you
Right.
understand why he would probably do this and why she would do this, and it's hard, you don't want to judge other people's love, but this is like an adult and a child. And for me, the most powerful scene in the film was when Melton was on the roof with
Oh
one of his
yeah.
sons and they're smoking
Amazing.
weed, and he just sort of breaks down and realizes like, oh my God, like what happened to my life?
Yeah.
Like I'm a child still. Like there was this Arrested Development, like you said, because of what happened to me, and how can I be a dad, and how can you be graduating already, and what was taken away, and you just see this one scene. I mean, obviously he's under the influence of weed, but also just with Melton's acting
Mhm.
is incredible. And you see him totally break down. And that's in the movie, at the point of the movie where I'm like, wow, like he really is the victim here. And it was a really heart-wrenching scene. I'm kind of surprised that he didn't get any nominations,
Yeah.
honestly, or none of these actors did. I think they were all definitely deserving it. And Natalie Portman, who she's amazing in some things and not amazing in other
Yeah,
things.
I'm with you.
But man, was she
She's
really,
amazing.
really good in this. I mean, her character too, you think is completely sympathetic. And then at the very end, you realize like she's exploiting this whole situation to produce like basically a Lifetime movie. And it's
Yeah.
not even like
It's not even good.
no, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, if someone made some point online that she's only good when she's playing like bad actors, like in Black Swan too, where like,
Yeah.
she's also playing like, someone who's not very, very good. But no, I love this movie. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, there's something meta about that as well, which is so clever, right? That the movie's playing on Natalie's persona of this kind of baby voice sort of thing, and but a smart, intelligent person who really comes at acting and craft and all of that. I mean, that's the perception we have. I mean, who knows how these people are in real life? And even Julianne, like her like cry has been memified, right? Like,
Yes.
and she gets plenty of those in this movie. So it's just so fun in that. And maybe that's what the movie is labeled as camp because it's so self-aware in that sense. So yeah.
Yeah, I think the key part of the self-awareness, because I've talked to people who are like, how can you say this is a comedy? How do you think it's funny? Which I found this film very funny, even though it
Yeah.
does touch on some really dark things. But for me, it's the music that is
Yeah.
so overly dramatic and
Yeah.
like a soap opera, and it just comes in at these moments that I couldn't help but laugh when you're
Exactly.
watching it. I think, Haynes knows what he's doing. They know what they're doing. They're trying to introduce some, I don't want to say like levity, but this camp style in here, but not make it overwhelming. It's
Hmm.
still a very serious topic that they're treating with respect, but they can't, if you delved into this too much, it'd be too depressing and hard to watch. I mean, it's
Yeah.
about, again, child predators, like,
Yeah.
pedophiles essentially, and those are some of the darkest topics you can touch in any form of art. But this movie is funny. It's fun. I don't,
Yeah.
weird way. I just find it to be that.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I guess we should mention some of the mirror scenes as well, which is the
Oh yeah.
cornerstone of this movie of like how the two actors are kind of becoming each other and the work that they put in the movie as actresses so that Natalie could easily mimic things like all the lisp and all
Oh
of this is
yeah.
all invented by Julianne. Like this is amazing. It's not in the script. She did all this so that Natalie would have like tangible things that she can sort of mimic. And then of course the camera and Todd captures that. We see that. We are looking at them while they're looking at each other. There's just something so powerful about that. And that's the genius of Todd Haynes, right? That this movie could be like a simple TV movie, but it's
Oh yeah.
cinematic.
Mm-hmm.
Totally cinematic in my mind.
Yeah, the lisp thing was crazy too,
Yeah.
because I didn't even realize Julianne Moore was doing a lisp until Natalie Portman was impersonating her with the lisp. And was like, oh, wait a second, does she have a lisp? And all of a sudden I'm like, oh man, she does. So
Yeah.
it's like Julianne Moore's lisp was so natural, I didn't even pick
Yeah.
up on it. But then when the actor is coming in trying to personify the character, she's
Yeah.
over exaggerating just that extra 5%, where all of a sudden I'm like, wait a second, why does she have a lisp? This is weird. I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God. Like the whole time. And again, this all of these performances. But yeah, the mirror scenes are really just showing just what that Todd is elevating the material to a level that only he can do with this kind
Totally.
of thing. It's like the perfect. And actually, speaking of like the screenplay too, which I think is so definitely handled as well. Is this the first time Todd Haynes has directed someone else's work entirely?
He's been doing this lately, like Dark Waters is not written
Oh,
by
it wasn't. Okay,
him.
okay,
And so he's
okay.
been doing this a little bit. And it's kind of fun to see him in this role because
Yeah.
otherwise everything that he's done has been written by him. So I kind of love that.
Me too. And I guess like Alexander Payne in the last
Yeah,
movie we
same
covered,
thing.
it's fun to see these auteur directors just be directors. I feel like nowadays
Hmm.
most auteurs are writer directors, like a P.T. Anderson, Greta Gerwig,
Hmm.
Chris Nolan, like they do both. And
Hmm.
but in the old days, like Hitchcock didn't write anything, but
Right.
he's still an auteur.
Yeah.
Kubrick didn't write all of his films. I mean, some of them he had a major hand on the screenplay, but not every single one. But he still has a vision, and I just like that these directors are kind of stretching themselves in a way. and taking other people's work that they connect with, but it still feels like their work.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Great
really,
film.
Really, really great.
Available on Netflix, so anyone who's listening can easily, if they have Netflix, easily go and stream it. It's definitely something that I think got overlooked in the Oscars this year a lot. It should have had more juice. In a year that wasn't as strong, I think this is just a year, again, of spoil of riches. In another year, this would have gotten all the top, acting nominations and director, screenwriter, all that kind of stuff.
I think so too.
Hi there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes. Every other Wednesday, Karan and I review a new release and then discuss 6 other movies made by that film's actor or director and how they shaped us. Subscribe right now or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.